Okay, hi guys, this is your pick a card reading for Venus retrograde. So we're going to be focusing on the question, what lessons do I need to learn during Venus retrograde? So if you don't know already, Venus retrograde is running from the 5th of October to the 16th of November. So we've got some time now to really focus on things like our self-worth, like how we put ourselves into relationships, like the way that we feel about being in a relationship, like what we can learn from reflecting on other people and the relationships that we're in. And in particular, Venus retrograde is going to be a little bit up and down for us, and we might end up feeling a bit overwhelmed by it all, but it's all for our best interest. So that's why I wanted to do this, you know, what lessons do I need to learn here? So before you start, ground yourself, you know, get into the zone, pick intuitively, take a few deep breaths, pause the video if you need to, and then pick one of these groups. So we've got group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4 and group 5. So yeah, take a minute and pick one, and then you'll find the timestamps below so you can skip forward to your group. Okay, so if you picked group 1, this is what we've got for you here. So on the Thoth cards, we have got Strength, the Prince of Discs and the Chariot. And then in these little universal Rider-Waite, we've got Temperance, 4 of Coins, 5 of Wands, Judgment and the High Priestess. Okay, so what this is telling me here is that perhaps you might be a little bit like rushing into things, you know, like you're quite a head over heart kind of person, and you might have been rushing into situations where intuitively, you know that this is a connection that you want to follow, but you know there are some external influences going on. So particularly with the 5 of Wands here, you might be having like other people's opinions come into it, you know, like if you tell your friends about it, like, you know, I think I've met the one, and they're like, you know, what are you talking about, you know, don't be silly. And you know, I think as well there is a little bit of worry here with perhaps being out of control with this. So you know, with the Chariot here, it's like you do trust your heart and you do want to rush into things, but perhaps a little bit more patience might be the way forwards with this, you know, before you give your heart away. And I think as well, like, you know, you are quite a balanced person. You've got Temperance here, so you know you're quite good with self-control, but it might be like a case of like one or the other. So you're either like, you know, you're in it 100% and you're like throwing yourself into the connection, or you're kind of being a little bit cautious about it, and like, you know, perhaps like trying to cling on to like any sense of stability or trying to rein in self-control with it. So you're kind of like one or the other. And I feel like as well, like, you need to trust your intuition a little bit better on these things, because it'll be able to tell you whether or not you should move forwards with certain situations or not. I think part of your lesson here for Venus retrograde is to focus on yourself, like focus on building up your inner strength, focus on, you know, what you should be doing for yourself, like looking at yourself, you know, in meditation, really like opening up the channels of intuition here, because yeah, there is a little bit of like wanting this connection to work or wanting a connection to come in, but then perhaps not really being willing to give up this sense of stability. And you know, when we get into a relationship, it is all about taking a risk, because if you're not vulnerable, then you're not really going to get anywhere, unfortunately, because you know, it's all well and good feeling grounded and feeling in control of a situation, but if you're not following your gut and you're not like moving forwards following your heart, then you know you're not actually going to get the situation that you want. You're not going to receive the love that you want, because you're not taking a risk. Like, you know, when we first go into a relationship, we don't naturally trust somebody. Like, that is built over time. So I feel like perhaps here we've got a little bit of trust issues perhaps, you know, and that can happen from past relationships, you know, when we were burned before and we don't want to quite rush into something and we're not quite willing to give up, you know, everything here. And I feel like you are somebody that would love a connection, you know, would love to give themselves to somebody emotionally and would love to have a really deep connection here, but there is perhaps like material things that are like holding you back. By that I don't mean like material things like money, I mean like you want to feel secure in whatever you go into, but unfortunately that's not going to be the case all the time because you can't really tell the future. And so you might feel this like kind of conflict between, you know, should I or shouldn't I, and a lot of that is to do with trust. And actually the trust comes when you begin to trust yourself and you begin to trust like your internal wisdom, that you know what is best, you know, you're having a lot of self-respect and you're not like rushing into things without like really thinking about it. It's a lot to do with self-trust. So I feel like that is part of your Venus retrograde lesson here, is to trust yourself and to build up your own self-respect, build up your own inner strength, because that actually will make you feel a little bit less cautious about going into a relationship. You've got like the Chariot here, that's representative of Cancer, and you know the sign of Cancer is like, you think of the crab, it's like it's got this soft underbelly with this shell and it's trying to protect its soft underbelly. So if you're always trying to protect yourself and you're always trying to make sure that you don't get hurt and that you're staying grounded and that you're staying in control of the situation and trying to avoid conflict of any sort, then you're not really going to get the chance to explore this relationship or a relationship in a really deep way that you want to. So yeah, I think, you know, during this Venus retrograde, I think it's time for you to like have a little look at how much you trust yourself, how much you trust your intuition, and you know, try and feel a little bit grounded in yourself and have this inner strength so that you can move forwards in a relationship, and try not to like project it out, try not to kind of dictate your self-worth based on somebody else, because you know you could put your trust into somebody and they could still, you know, they could still treat it badly, they could still break your trust, and that should not have any effect over how you feel about yourself. That should not affect your self-worth, because it's not to do with you, it's to do with them. So I feel like that is quite a big lesson here for you in Venus retrograde. So yeah, I hope that helped, guys. I'm going to move on to the next group now. So yeah. Okay guys, this is group 2. If you chose this one, let's have a look what you got. So we've got in the Thoth, we've got the Ace of Wands, the Universe and the Wheel of Fortune. Ooh, some biggies here. Then in these little Universal Tarot, we've got the Nine of Swords, the Magician, Four of Swords, Six of Swords and the Knight of Cups. Okay, yeah, so what this is telling me here is that during Venus retrograde, perhaps you need to learn to trust yourself a little bit better. So you've got here the Magician, and the Magician is very confident in the abilities to manifest. So if you're single, perhaps you've been worrying a little bit like, oh, you know, my knight in shining armor is never going to come and I'm never going to feel this, you know, these emotional depths that I want to feel. Or if you're in a relationship, perhaps you are not trusting their feelings for you, you know, you're constantly like second guessing the connection and having doubts about it, like, you know, well, what if they don't like me as much as I like them, and you know, this kind of thing. And a lot of this is to do with your levels of security, like your self-worth, and that's something that Venus retrograde will really bring up for you, and it'll be able to kind of like light this fire under your feet a little bit so that you can start to see the world in a slightly different way. Because at the moment I feel like you're quite anxious about love in general, because, you know, perhaps you don't feel like you deserve it, or perhaps you feel like, you know, it's been a bit of a quiet time for you in the love department with the Four of Swords here. You know, maybe you've had a little bit too much time to think about it, and that actually is causing you to doubt yourself. Whereas with the Universe here, it's like you already know, you know, you're already complete, you're already in a place where you are deserving of love. You don't really need to do anything or be better. And actually, as soon as you start to let go of this, you know, trying to manifest love in the way that you want it to look, then the wheel will turn and things will start to look different for you, because you've kind of like, you know, you've accepted that you are deserving of love, and that it will come to you when the time is right. Like, a lot of this stuff works on divine timing. So, you know, if it's not coming right now, then it will come at some point, but you just need to kind of like really be feeling yourself and like be like, do you know what, I'm awesome, I'm beautiful, like I need to just accept that I have the power to manifest what I want in my life, like a beautiful romance. And, you know, then you just have to kind of be patient, meditate quite a lot, go within, you know, get over any past hurts that might have held you back, because a lot of the time we carry our relationship baggage into the next relationship, and we think, well, you know, this person's got all their swords around them, this is like all their kind of negative thinking, and they're trying to move away from that by using like spirituality and using kind of like therapy on themselves. So keep digging into your psyche, into your past, and have a look at the things that made you feel like perhaps you weren't worthy of love, perhaps you weren't worthy of having this like passionate beginning, you know. And maybe you see yourself as somebody that is, you know, perhaps doesn't get carried away with these kind of things, but it doesn't have to be like that. You know, you can have this beautiful romance, you can have these like very exciting kind of like romantic, exciting kind of experiences with somebody. You just have to believe in yourself. It's not even about believing in the romance itself, it's about believing in yourself and knowing that you have all the answers, and also knowing that you're okay by yourself. Because a lot of the time when we're like trying to get a relationship, or we're trying to attract a certain person, we're putting all of our energy into that person, and we're like, oh, I just really, really want to manifest this, I really, really want this person in my life, and, you know, I really want them to come and tell me how much they love me so that I can feel complete. But actually what happens is, when we are complete in ourselves, you know, when we accept that, you know, we are the universe incarnate, then the wheel turns, and all of a sudden we start attracting these incredible connections, because we are feeling it ourselves. Like, you know, that if you can't love yourself, then how in the hell are you going to love somebody else? Like, and, you know, and if you don't find yourself attractive, then why would somebody else find you attractive? Like, you know, sure, people will see on the outside, they'll be like, wow, you know, I like the look of them, but if you're like very, very not confident and you have low self-worth, then people will pick up on that. Whereas if you build up your own self-worth and you kind of keep digging into your psyche and finding out what is going on that makes you believe that you cannot have love, then you will start to manifest these beautiful connections that people will go, wow, oh my gosh, look at this person. And then you'll stop worrying about it all the time, you know, because you'll have a lot of options, you'll have a lot of choice, but all you have to do is like believe in yourself, you know, do some meditation, really go deep on it, and try and figure out like what kind of mindsets you need to move away from so that you can bring in the kind of love that you want. And then it will happen. You know, the Wheel of Fortune is very karmic. It's like, this is going to come when you are ready. This will come when you have reached the stage where you are accepting yourself, when you believe in your abilities, when you know that you are powerful. Then this love will come. But before then, you know, you've got to do some work on these kind of like worries about, am I good enough, or, you know, maybe it'll never happen, like this kind of thing. So yeah, just keep really building up your self-worth, and Venus retrograde is the perfect time to do it as well. So yeah, I hope that helped, guys. I'm going to move on to the next group now. Hi guys, so this is group 3. If you picked this one, let's see what you got. Okay, so in the Thoth, we've got the Star, the Prince of Wands, and Pleasure, the 6 of Cups. And then in these little ones, we've got the 5 of Swords, the 8 of Cups, the Moon, 10 of Swords, and the 4 of Cups. Okay, so what this is telling me here is that, you know, you've got a lot of hope. You've got a lot of hope that the right connection will come to you, or that, you know, the one that you found is the right connection. But you are constantly kind of, you know, battling head and heart issues. You know, you've got the 10 of Swords here. So this is telling me that, you know, you are really kind of like thinking about this a little bit fatalistically, you know, like, oh, well, what if it doesn't end up in the way that I want it to, you know? What if I lose out on this? What if they walk away from me and they leave me, and I have to walk away from them and leave them? What if they don't see what's right in front of them? Or what if I don't see what's right in front of me and I miss out on some experience? Or, you know, and this is just so much chaotic thinking energy that actually it's blocking you from feeling this kind of pleasure that comes from just trusting your intuition and trusting your emotions. And with the moon here, I suspect that this is like some subconscious kind of stuff is going on. So it will be rooted in the past. So if you've got any like past relationships that went a bit like tits up, and, you know, maybe you didn't fully learn something from it, or what you learned from it was a negative lesson. You know, perhaps you learned that people leave. And this can even be like parents, you know, if you've had a parent leave, you know, that would have taught you subconsciously that people always leave you. Or that you'd always end up in this kind of Ten of Swords, kind of, you know, anxious, upset energy, or that, you know, you have to fight for love. You know, maybe that's what you've subconsciously learned somewhere along the way, that you have to fight for love. But, you know, with these cards here, it's like you don't have to do that. Like there is some healing is needed, and I think Venus retrograde is a very good time for that kind of healing to occur. And what you really need to do is look to your pleasure and, you know, just kind of like be this like fiery, warm, joyful person that you have inside of you, and stop worrying about what it will look like or how it will turn out, because you can't predict the future, you know. You cannot, even if you get with somebody that seems wonderful, you can't predict what they're going to do at any point, and it is not you. If somebody leaves you, that's because that's their journey and that's their decision. It's not anything to do with you, you know? And I think once you start to uncover some of these layers, like, you know, this little romantic onion that you've got going on here, if you really start to peel back why you feel this way, like, why do you feel like people are going to reject you or leave you, you know? And that will really help you to be able to manifest this kind of pleasure and this kind of like fiery, like passionate kind of love that you're really hoping for. So, excuse me. Yeah, so with the Four of Cups here as well, it's like, you know, you're kind of sitting there like waiting for this cup to appear, like when, you know, when are they going to come to me? When am I going to have this beautiful connection? Or if you're already in a relationship, like, you know, when is it going to look the way I want it to look? But then, you know, it's like you're looking at these, like comparing it to other people's relationships perhaps, or comparing yourself to other people, when actually it's going to look entirely different from anything that you could possibly conceive. Like when you do meet the one, and when you do finally, or, you know, if you're in a relationship, when you guys do finally like get on the same page, then it's going to look very different from what you imagined it to look like. And your job right now is just to really focus on what is going on within you that is making you feel like perhaps a little bit insecure, you know, maybe that you don't deserve love, or that, you know, love is something that has to be battled for, has to be won, and there's winners and losers. Like there are no winners and losers in love. Like, you know, love is just love. Like, and, you know, even if you do lose it and somebody walks away, like, you know, that really cliche expression, like it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Like, you know, we learn something from every relationship that we get into, and when we're with somebody, it's like we transform on some level. So, you know, if you have had some pretty crappy like past relationships, just think about what you learned from them, like positive and negative, because, you know, there might be some negative lessons that you've learned from that, or from your childhood, that might be preventing you from bringing in this kind of beautiful connection that you're really seeking. And I think as well, like, it's time that you start taking a little bit of action towards your pleasure. So, you know, get out of your head a little bit, get out of the house, like go and let your hair down, go dancing, go places where you might meet somebody, you know, and that something might occur from that. Like, be yourself, be this like individual, you know, wacky, awesome person that you know that you are, and do things for you, because as soon as you start doing things for you, that's when somebody will come along that is aligned for you. And until you manage to kind of like step into your power and do things that are just only for you, and just really recognize your individuality and how freaking awesome you are, and kind of let go of these like past hurts, then, you know, you're going to be stuck in this kind of energy. And all you need to do is just accept that you are awesome, and really try and channel your energy into that, and then something will happen. Like if you're in a relationship, then that will start to transform. Or if you're single, then you will start to have more options, because you're not carrying this baggage around all the time, and you believe in your own worth. So yeah, I hope that helped, guys. I'm going to move on to the next group now. Okay guys, so I've got group 4 here. So if this was you, let's check out what you've got going on here for Venus retrograde. So in the Thoth, we've got adjustment, the Fool, and 5 of Cups, disappointment. We've got in these little ones, we've got the King of Swords, justice, again we've got double, 9 of Cups, the King of Wands, and the 3 of Pentacles. Okay, so what this is telling me here is that perhaps you are a little bit frightened of taking a risk, because you don't want to end up in the 5 of Cups. So perhaps you've got this mindset of like, well, if I don't go for it, then I can't be disappointed. Like if I just stay where it's safe, then I cannot, be rejected. If I don't take a risk and tell someone how I feel, then I can't be rejected. And I feel like, I think that you're a little bit concerned about like outer appearances, like, oh, do I look good enough? And, do I have the right job? And have I got the right hair? I don't know, like, all of these kind of like worries where you like pick at yourself and think, are they noticing me, or are they not noticing me because I'm not good enough, And because of that, I think, you constantly going back and forwards with this kind of like, I want someone, no, I don't want someone. I want someone, no, I'm fine, I'm single, And because of that, I think that maybe you're blocking this new direction that you might have ahead of you with the Fool. Because with the Fool here, this is like, this is front and centre right here. So this is very important to your message. It's about taking risks. It's about moving forwards and just knowing that you will be safe and that you will be held by the universe, and that any step that you take will be the right direction, and you don't really need to worry too much about it. You don't really need to worry about encountering pain on the way. All you need to do is move forwards and kind of like accept this, accept any new opportunities. So if somebody comes to you and you think, oh, well, they're not really the sort of person that I go for it, see where it takes you, go for coffee with someone, try and lift your expectations a little bit, because, I think you're probably quite a logical person, and you're quite in control of your thoughts, and, you've got 2 kings here, so you're obviously somebody that's fairly confident, but perhaps you might be a little bit reluctant to try something new, and a little bit reluctant to perhaps tip the scales in a different direction. And at the moment you're just trying to keep the status quo. Like, at the moment you're probably, if you're happy where you are and you're like, well, I don't want change, because if I take a risk and I change, then I could end up here in this 5 of Cups. And so, you've got the same card repeated here. So this is quite important to you to learn that, what you put into something is what you give out, is what you get back, sorry. So if you're trying to keep the status quo and you're like, well, I'm quite happy where I am at the moment, and, I'm just like, just in this like these king kind of energy where I'm like, I'm loving my single life, or, I'm happy with my relationship even though it's comfortable. Like if you're not willing to tip these scales a little bit, then you will never experience this new direction. So I feel like you need to get out of your comfort zone a little bit during this Venus retrograde, because right now it's like, perhaps you might be overindulgent by kind of like being like, well, I don't need to go out because I'm quite happy being single, or I'm quite happy, in my relationship, and, we don't need to try anything new. But actually that again is just keeping you in this like same kind of like very level like place, and then you're missing these opportunities where you could open an entirely new way of thinking. And I feel like, it's not necessarily, you're not keeping the status quo because, you're particularly, thrilled with it. It's comfortable and it feels good and it's indulgent, and it ticks all your boxes. But it's not exactly like, you know, wow, pow, you know, it's not like the Sun or like, you know, the Two of Cups and the Lovers. It's not like crazy, like satisfying in that way. But I feel like the reason that you're staying in this status quo, in this limbo situation, and not really deciding, you know, whether to go either way or deciding to try something new, is because of fear. Because you're frightened that, you know, if you put yourself out there, or if you try something new, or if you try and like tip the scales a little bit, that you will end up in this Five of Cups energy, and you're trying to avoid that because, you know, you're just staying in the safe zone. And by staying in the safe zone, you don't grow as well, and you don't, you know, accept these kind of like karmic opportunities that will come to you because you're not opening yourself up to them. You know, like the Fool is at the beginning of his journey, so he's got a hell of a lot of stuff to come yet, you know, lots of adventures, hurdles, all kinds of crazy stuff on the way. And if you are constantly trying to keep the status quo, you know, trying to keep your single life, or trying to keep your relationship the way it is, or just trying to, you know, stay in charge, trying to stay in control of the situation just so that you don't come into Five of Cups territory, then you are missing out on these hurdles. And, you know, some of them might be hard, some of them might be Five of Cups, but eventually the Five of Cups then turns into the Six of Cups, and the Six of Cups is nice, you know, and then it goes on from there and we get to the Ten of Cups, and the Ten of Cups is beautiful. But if you don't get over the Five of Cups energy, then you're always kind of like, oh no, oh no, oh no. So, you know, I feel like Venus retrograde is going to help you to uncover some of these fears and get you out of your comfort zone a little bit. And, you know, it might be that this Five of Cups energy comes to you anyway, because you can't guarantee, like, even if you stay in your safe zone, something could still happen to push you into the Fool energy, you know, some sort of karmic occurrence could still happen. So, you know, it's quite important that you like relinquish control a little bit here, stop worrying about like how you appear to other people, and just take a risk, just get out there and like do something really different, you know, even if it's just changing up your hair or something, just do something that's really, really different so that you can like signal to Venus retrograde, like, yeah, I'm ready for this Fool energy. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the next group now. I hope that helped, guys. Okay, guys, this is group 5. If you picked this one, let's see what you got. So in the Thoth, we've got the Five of Pentacles, we've got the Eight of Wands, and the Queen of Wands. And then in these ones, we've got the Ace of Cups, the Eight of Wands is a repeat, the Star, the Empress, and the Ace of Wands. We've got a lot of wands here. So yeah, I feel like with this group there's a real kind of like searching for something that's like really zingy, you know, like when you meet somebody it has to be like boom, yes, love it, great. You're not really the kind of person that goes for a slow burn, and perhaps you might be in that a little bit impatient with some people, like you're like, you know, I want it now. Or it could also be that, you know, you're waiting for somebody to contact you. You know, maybe you've already met your person and you're kind of like just like really kind of like worrying that they're not going to contact you, and you're really focusing on that, and you're really like in this place of hoping, like, you know, when are they going to contact me? When are they going to contact me? When am I going to have this beautiful potential of this romance? You know, you've got two aces here, so if you have met somebody already, then you're really sold already. You're like, this has got the love and the passion right here. And if you haven't met someone yet, then, you know, you really got your eyes out looking for somebody. So I feel like, you know, this is an energy of somebody that's already kind of like feeling themselves and already quite like confident in themselves. And, you know, perhaps you've got quite high standards, you know, like you are the Empress here. And a lot of the time it's kind of like finding somebody who will meet those expectations, or finding somebody who's on your level. And you know, and perhaps because of that you might miss out on other opportunities, or you might get kind of like focused on one particular person who perhaps isn't ready for a commitment at this time. And I think this is telling you at the moment with Venus retrograde that like love is on the cards for you. You can definitely see that, you know, you've got the Ace of Cups and the Ace of Wands here, but I feel like you need to stop worrying about what it's going to look like in the material world. So if you are like part of this like soulmate twin flame connection, then, you know, believing that it's just going to happen in the way that it's meant to happen, and believing in divine timing is going to be the way forwards. Like, try not to get too transfixed on the material, on like the 3D world right now. Try to kind of just, you know, go into like meditation. Try not to be too focused on receiving contact from this person, or, you know, from meeting this person. If you are single and you haven't met somebody yet, like, try to get out of this energy of, you know, just putting all of your eggs in a future basket, if that makes sense. You know, try and live a little bit more in the present. Try and really like build up your confidence, because, you know, you already are clearly a very beautiful, very vibrant person. So try and focus on that a little bit more, and actually it will come to you. There's nothing that you really need to do. So I feel like, you know, this is quite a profound one as well, because you've got here Venus. So Venus retrograde is going to be quite a strong time for you, and it's going to be a time when you really start to step into your power quite a bit more, and you start to attract more options. You start to attract more love interests, and start to really feel like, you know, you are stepping into your power, and you're stopping worrying about, you know, having this connection in the real world, because it might not happen immediately. You might need to have a little bit of patience. You know, it might be on the horizon still that it's coming, but it is coming. So for now, I think you just need to focus on having a good time, being the Queen of Wands. You know, she likes to go out, she likes to party, she likes to let her hair down, she likes to chat with her friends, she likes to, you know, have a bit of a knees up, have a dance, enjoy life. She likes to do passionate, creative things. So if you're focused on that, and you're focused on, you know, being comfortable and being creative, and, you know, bringing in abundance into your life, then this communication will come eventually. But for now, you need to get out of thinking about it in the kind of like material realm, because when you get too wrapped up in how things should look, then actually you start blocking out other options. You know, when you've got these expectations about, well, I want it to be like this, and I want it to be like that, and maybe it will happen here, maybe it will happen there, you know, then what you're doing is you're blocking out other options. You know, you're blocking out, or even that option, you're blocking it out from coming to you in the way that it is meant to come, you know. And I feel like as well, like, you know, you need to go deep within yourself a little bit here, as well as having this great time. And just, this is just telling me to just really focus on yourself. Don't worry about the communication right now. You know, if you're in a period of separation, don't worry about it. It will come. You know, 8 of Wands is communication coming in fast. Like, it's going to happen eventually. But with the star here as well, it's like, you know, you just need to be patient, really, because this love, it will unfold in the way that it's meant to unfold with divine timing. So I think with Venus retrograde, this is all about letting go of the control of what things should look like, you know, like just kind of really just focusing on yourself, not worrying about how it's going to turn out, you know, whether or not it's all going to live happily ever after, you know, whether or not they're going to come to you and they're going to offer you love. Just don't worry about it. Just let it happen as it's meant to happen, you know, like give it up to the universe, offer it up to divine timing, and try not to try and figure it out in any way, because, you know, these are really beautiful cards that you've got here. So this is going to be a very abundant time for you, Venus retrograde, if you just focus on yourself and just let this connection or you know, this potential love that you're seeking, let it unfold in divine timing. Like, you know, just offer it up to the universe and say, do you know what? While I wait, I'm just going to do me. So yeah, I hope that helped, guys. And that is the last group. So yeah, if any of this resonated, do let me know in the comments, and I hope that Venus retrograde treats you well. Like, it's all about learning our lessons, really. It's all about figuring out our self-worth, and, you know, just really trying to be comfortable by ourselves without having to rely on relationships. And then once we can do that, then we can start to have a healthy relationship, and we'll start to attract healthier options. So yeah, catch you next time, guys. Bye.